Hello and welcome to WKNC's official sports podcast in the Den. Today we're going to be going over the volleyball games for the past week. We'll be going over their win against South Carolina and their loss against Coastal Carolina. We're going to be going over the Wake Forest game last Thursday and then the Duke football game coming up this Saturday. We'll be going over women's soccer. It's been a few weeks since I talked about them. We're going to kind of give another update and kind of look at who they have this upcoming weekend because they got themselves a gauntlet this weekend. And we'll be finishing by talking about another event that's going on this weekend with the Adidas cross country competition in Cary. So get your headphones on and let's get straight to it. All right, so I know I got some juicy football content coming up ahead, but I'm going to talk about volleyball first. So for the South Carolina game with the tip-off tournament, NC State, they won 3-1, and I thought it was a really good game for them, even though they did lose the first set. It was definitely they had some mistakes there where they had a series of attack errors. That gave South Carolina that 10-3 scoring streak to clinch the first set. And, a lot of the big-name freshmen and some of the more skilled defensive players, when they kind of have to carry the load, a lot of mistakes are made. Rebecca Ring did score a lot on that set, though. For the second set, a lot of crucial blocks that occurred from Dorsey, Talia Francome, and Clara Fondren. And basically those were kind of big blocks that kind of led to little scoring blocks that helped them secure that second set. For the third set, there was multiple scores by Bryant Cropper and Jordan Smith. And let's see. Eliza Fuller, she's been kind of getting into this big role of dishing out assists as well, and that helped to clinch the set, particularly in this game and with the other game I'm going to mention. And closing it off in that last set, they had about 34% accuracy, which isn't amazing, but I think they finished with like 260 on the game overall. And they led up to 8 points before, Courtney Bryant, she had to come in and clinch it. Shout out to, on the South Carolina team, Sarah Jordan had 36 assists. And Elena Johnson, Nia Hill, 29 total kills. 16 hills is a career high at this point by Courtney Bryant. Claire Fondren, she has gotten 31% accuracy on her own with 5 kills. Sushia Mashishiwicz had 21 digs. Noisa Fuller and Ashley Moen had 42 assists combined compared to South Carolina's 42 team-wide. So, I was really happy with that win, but I was not too happy with the loss because that kind of built on those early issues that I mentioned with trying to handle errors. So it was Coastal Carolina and the Wolfpack Invitational. They lost 3-1 with Coastal Carolina. They had a really strong offense in this game. They hit like 45.7 in that first set. In that second set, they're with the second set, NC State actually won it thanks to Jordan Smith. She was kind of the head honcho for that set, but of course Claire Fondren and Courtney Bryant also had good performances. And certainly that helped that Coastal Carolina actually led the errors in that set, and that was kind of key to winning that second set. Can't say the same about the third set, where Coastal Carolina's Jalen Stout came in to help get an 8-1 lead with, of course, some errors. And they almost came back with the help of Sydney Daniels and Haley and McFadden, who are both coming off the bench and doing just as well as our starters. But a bad set and some scoring errors kind of killed the momentum, and Coastal Carolina cruised to that third set. And also that fourth set, even though it was kind of a back and forth between them, Jalen Stout, she had that big scoring streak with the blend of errors. That was kind of something to repeat. But then Emily Fowler, she had 17 kills and 16 assists. 3 of those kills came to clinch the game. Let's see. So another couple more shout outs for Coastal Carolina. 22 digs for Bailey Earnhardt. 10 kills and 3 blocks for Anna Rita. Courtney Bryant, she had another career high with 21 kills and she had 17 digs. Lisa Fuller had 25 assists and 18 digs and some service aces as well. And shout out to freshman Jordan Smith with 14 of her own kills. So when we win, it's because our freshmen just kind of come in and just bang it out. I'm kind of happy with the increased roles, especially since I think they should get as much reps as they can head into, the conference competition. It's just, kind of the big pattern with losing is just their inexperience at this high of a level and all the errors that kind of come with it, which I think is to be expected from a growing team. But it's just like when you don't have Courtney Daniels as the big star and Ashley Mullen assistant, Sushia Machiewicz giving out the digs, even though she is also a freshman. She's kind of got her own role as the libero, and she's been playing that really well. It's going to take some experience. It's going to take a little bit more from the bench because, the bench and defensive players, when it comes their turn to score, they can make mistakes, even though Sydney Daniels, Eliza Fuller, who else did I mention? Claire Fondren. I thought they had big step-ups. I just would like to see more and kind of see things get figured out. Head into the next tournament, the VCU Invitational, which hopefully we'll win, but I'm not really going to cover it too strongly. We've got a lot to go over today. But next episode, I believe I will go over Duke and UNC because that's kind of the weekend doubleheader where it was like, it's technically a doubleheader. It's UNC on Friday and Duke on Sunday. But that's the start of our conference play at least. So watch out. I guess that's really all I had to say on that part. Just more experience, cut down on the errors, and NC State would do just fine. All right, coming up next, we got the football. We'll be going over to Wake Forest and what to expect from Duke. So that our Wake Forest game was pretty good, right? 3-0 now on the season. There was 2 big comebacks in that game, early on with the big return followed by that big pass and that big run to lead by 2 touchdowns in like less than 5 minutes before Justin Jolly comes in. He gets that touchdown. I think you've seen the game. I don't think I have to kind of go through all of it. But I just would kind of like to talk about it at least. Sean Brown got that pressure. And Isaiah Shirley got that pick 6. And then, of course, that second comeback with Robbie Ashford getting his own rushing touchdown, which was offset by Keenan Jackson getting his first touchdown this season, so good for him. And then, of course, another game-clinching interception. This time, I think, to Robbie Royal III. So look at that. People said this past defense sucks, and we get 2 game-winning interceptions in 2 consecutive games. How about that? Still kind of suck, though. I believe there were a lot of big throws that could have been prevented. There was, Chris Barnes. He had that 70-yarder early on. Dang, he had a good game in that first quarter. Eni Falai, his only catch was 42-yarder, and they were both wide open on those deep routes. They did fine holding Ashford to 60% accuracy and 2 touchdowns. But I think it was more of Ashford losing a game than NC State's defense winning it. And what I mean is that Ashford's not an elite quarterback, and I think it was just once they got the pressure on him, they were able to make mistakes. I don't think there was any genius level defensive scheme. Maybe I'm just kind of looking at it for like confirmation bias, but I didn't see anything exceptional with that. So, the pressure could have been more, especially on the passing defense. I guess a little bit more of like a what went well and what didn't. I forgot I'm doing this segment now. So what went well? The CJ Bailey Heisman run claims another victim. 3 touchdowns, 72% accuracy. I'm going to look at the lack of a true number one receiver as a benefit just because it makes us look versatile. Because, you get your real fast guys on deep routes if you want to trick them up, and then you can kind of make Jolly run a little short route, kind of create that separation between the safeties and corners and the linebackers who, if it looks like they're blitzing or it looks like they're loading it, maybe you could make something work there. That's kind of what I had in mind when I mentioned that. If I had to say a top 3, Noah Rogers, Justin Jolly, Wesley Grimes, Keenan Jackson, he popped off. I guess I can't. I'm just going to keep naming random ones. Hollywood Smothers, he's a running back, but he had a great game today. I mean, he was vital for getting a chains moving, setting up scores where 17 points out of, I think, the 34 total scored in that game came from Hollywood Smothers himself. Came from drives where he got them into the red zone. So I guess let's say, for instance, he was stuffed on those plays. I'm sure maybe CJ Bailey's arm could have gotten him there, but you can't be certain. You could definitely would have gone down to 10 or 14, which they still would have won, sure. But you don't like it to be that close, especially since now I feel like NC State could seriously talk about being ranked and actually being a good football team. Let's see. Second half defense I thought was great. 3 punts and 2 turnovers against Wake Forest, including I'm not going to include the sack where Harsh got ejected, but the other sack tied 24-24 by Trevally Price. That was a good one. This is why I say that Wake Forest's quarterback lost in the game, because NC State has not proven that they could hold a quarterback to only 40 passing yards and 2 rushing yards in the second half. I believe they could if they had a quarterback I'm not going to disrespect Robbie Ashford like that, actually. But, so I apologize. I take that back. But 40 yards passed in the second half, net 2 rushing touchdown yards, and 0-6 on third down. That is just something special that I don't think you can see every week. I don't even think you see that from the best defenses in the country. I don't think, who's the best defense out there in college football? You know what? Even just the SEC. I'm trying to think. Georgia Tech can hold Cade Klubnik to 40 passing yards. But I don't know. I just think that's lightning in a bottle. You may not see it next week with Duke. I'll go a little bit more into that. Second half offense was great too. Get the lead, scored 17. The defensive line really stifled Ashford. That resulted in more incompletions, but I'm not complaining. What I'm complaining about is the penalties. 10 penalties of 94 yards, including the ejection. Evenly split between offense, defense, halves. So this is a team problem. This isn't something where it kind of got fixed at halftime. It was kind of a thorn on NC State's side. I did not record how many touchdowns were made from drives that were extended by penalties, but there was one in every drive, it felt like. Okay, no, I did mention 12 points From 5 to 10 extra yards given by the defense, such as the horse collar by Brock Hurst. I mentioned Harsh multiple times. I thought the start was a little slow with their reliance on the run game. But if C.J. Bailey doesn't continue the positive momentum with his arm, it could become a problem. I'm just kind of worried because if you get a really strong team in here, they could just knock them out. I could see NC State getting blown out if C.J. Bailey had to rely too much of his arm. Like, Hollywood Smothers is key to this team winning, in my opinion. But I shouldn't really go into too much rambling. I just think it's really important for this offensive line and the running backs to let's see. What was I gonna say? This offensive line just needs to make sure the Hollywood Smothers does not get stopped. Like, for instance, I mean, this game, I thought Hollywood Smothers had a great game, but there was still 10 tackles for losses, including 8 rushing attempts at 0 or less yards. They did give up a sack. I know I can't complain too much about it, but I want to because 10 tackles for losses is not great. That's 8 rushing attempts. I mean, if he averages I think 3.5 yards a rush, it's 2 first downs. I'm being a little nitpicky here, but that's 2 first downs. That's a lot they could do. And opening up the pass. I mean, once you stuff the run, what do you got to do? You got to pass. And, I mean, then it comes up to C.J. Bailey and the rest of the team. I don't know. Plus, the running back depth isn't that great. Jaden Scott, Will Wilson, I know they need more time and more reps. But averaging 3 yards and 9 runs is terrible. Okay, so I'll kind of wrap it up because I'm kind of rambling on here. Gave the offensive MVP of this week to Justin Jolly with his, I try not to give it to the quarterback automatically. I thought Bailey played great today, but 2 touchdowns. And a lot of them were more from his route running because, he tripped up that one in the first. I'm trying to remember what he did for the second one. I just know he was open for that second one too. And I put it down after that game, Hollywood Smothers was the leading running back in the nation when it came to yards, total yards. But that was Thursday, and the rest of them played a little later. Dang, he's not even in top 5 anymore. He's 6th. He's 6th in the country. Justice Haynes got 8 extra yards on him. See, he's got to be, he's the best running back in the conference, though. So, beat that. That's great. I was not expecting him to pop off like this. I don't think anyone really did. What else can I say? Yeah, he's got almost he's got 90 yards on the next guy, Micah Ford from Stanford. But Justin Jolly, he got the 2 touchdowns. He deserves the MVP. Sean Brown deserves defensive MVP, 12 total tackles. And, of course, that pass deflection for Isaiah Shirley. A lot of honorable mentions with Isaiah Shirley, Trevally Price, and Robbie Royal for the big defensive plays. But I just like Sean Brown. I've been sold on him for a while. And you know who's not going to like him? Duke. Okay, so I mentioned some time ago, a couple episodes ago, about the Tobacco Road rivalry and how the 4 big college football teams in North Carolina face off, and whoever wins the most amount of game between them gets the bragging rights. It's weird that so this is the only amount of coverage of that until late November. We're talking rivalry weekend and a couple weeks before. So, oh well. So I'll kind of just, sorry, I'm yawning. I'll kind of just let that go. And I'll just focus on. I'll bring that back up later, but just know that if it ended today, NC State would be the winner. They're the best college football team in North Carolina. I think they'll keep that title. But Duke, former NC State grad assistant and current head coach Manny Diaz, is looking to continue the highly successful 2020s era for Duke. He brings back offensive coordinator Jonathan Brewer and defensive coordinator Jonathan Patke. But they may not be ranked, but they're ready to prove themselves a challenge at any team head into the ACC title. And that's all the nice things I'll say about them. Because they, two blowout losses, one against number 19 Illinois, and the other by Tulane, who should be ranked by now. I believe they're ranked. They should be. They're good. Let's see. They are not ranked, sadly. They have 33 votes, though. NC State still can't get even one. That's a team. Oh, NC State's got 4. They got 4 votes. That's as much as SMU and a little less than Clemson. Look at that. We're finally starting to get into the discussion. Kind of an afterthought, but I'll take it. Where was I? Let's see. They did blow y'all out, but to say Duke is pass heavy, that's an understatement. That's kind of what I took from them. That they kind of do rely on it. They have a 3 running back rotation with Anderson Castle, Jaquez Moore, and Nate Shepard. But Duke does kind of rely more on the fast tempo spread offense. So what they do is like just kind of like the short intermediate routes where Darian Mensah, the quarterback for Duke, he can get the ball and he can keep his eye on the guy. It's no problem because he can just get it out quickly. This isn't like Garantano where you keep his eyes on the quarterback even for like longer routes. This is something where like he can get the ball out quick. And even though the offensive line's collapsing on him, it doesn't really seem to affect him too much. Like I haven't seen too much struggle in the pocket, but I'll go a little bit more into that later. I'd say the biggest stars, receiver-wise, Cooper Bargate and Andrell Anthony, but, I mean, they have, like, a couple guys who get double-digit receptions, and then, like, some of the guys who don't have, like, 3, 4 passing touchdowns. It's weird. Their defense is sort of this weird ultra-hybrid kind of defense. They have this thing called a Viper, which is like their defensive end that can transition to a linebacker, and then a star who can transition from linebacker to safety. So they can do multiple defensive fronts depending on the situation, like 4-3, 4-3-4, 3-4-4, or even 3-3-5 if they really wanted to. But it hasn't been working. So now we're going to see my feeble attempt at scouting a football game. Are you ready for that? So there's a couple notes I made from watching, Tulane and Illinois. I mentioned the quick routes. There are some times where Mensah, he will be able to roll out the pocket, and that's when I kind of see him making those multiple reads and being able to get it to different guys. But usually they just kind of go for the guys outside the hashes. Let's see. I didn't say his first name. Barat Swift out of the slot. He's a real athletic receiver too. But I would say be more focused on the guys outside the hashes because that's really who they target more often than not. The offensive line gave Mensah plenty of time, and his poise is really secure. So there was a little bit more deep route efficiency with Tulane than there was Illinois. And so we'll probably get a little bit more deep stuff, I believe, in this game because we're not at Illinois level, but we are kind of at Tulane level. Pretty close, at least. So I would say keep an eye out for that. With Illinois, they were able to get a lot of pressure on him early on. However, Allmeyer is just a pretty good quarterback. He was able to minimize mistakes and took advantage of the zone defense that Duke was carrying. Because I did see a lot of situations where the receivers in Illinois were able to outdo Duke. Like I've seen them tripping, I've seen them wide open, and the whole thing with the Duke's defense is that once you get past the defensive line, because the defensive line can put pressure on the quarterback and force him to run. That's what we saw with Tulane, where occasionally there wasn't a assigned quarterback run, but he was still able to get a lot of yards. Once you get past that defensive line, you're good to go because they don't do too much tackling on their own. I feel like a lot of their tackling just comes from getting them out of bounds on the sidelines. Sometimes even took multiple players to knock them out of bounds when it wasn't necessary. I would say NC State's a little better at tackling pass defensively. But shoot, yeah, just as long as they're able to get the yard. I mean, whoever our best yak guys are, that's kind of who we need to get on them because I don't know how Duke will be able to wrap their arms around and get them down consistently. The edge rushers, I definitely saw them kind of biting on fake runs. So I'd say be prepared for CJ Bailey to not use his legs as much because Duke might just overcorrect themselves on this because a lot of his Tulane's quarterback's runs for touchdowns were because Duke's defense would just kind of bite on the quarterback fake. Like, when they do the fake handoff and they run, like, I've seen it where the edge would he'll kind of go for it, hesitate, and then during that hesitation, he goes, oh, he's got the ball. He's already in the end zone. What the heck? So, yeah, you don't want any of that. And the only other things I mentioned is turnover battle. They've kind of lost it. Mensa definitely underthrows the... What's it called? He definitely underthrows the ball on his interceptions. And just they can't handle a good running quarterback. And that's what CJ Bailey is. So let me just show you with the matchups. So first up, Duke passing offense, NC State passing defense. Mensa's a good quarterback, and putting pressure on him, I mean, it won't be easy because he seems, like I mentioned, kind of calm and collected. Keep a eye out. Of course, Cooper Bargate and Quishon Brown. Those are guys who I think will be able to make good plays if NC State ever keeps their eyes off of them. Heween's been more the mid-tier routes and kind of the quicker ones. Like, I believe they'll do it where, like, I think they're one of those teams that try to do bubble routes and get cute with that, where it'd be like, oh, it's 3rd and 10. You're going to run a bubble route and hope you get the first down? Yeah, good luck. But my mistrust for the defensive backs of NC State grows with each week. They've gotten stronger, sure, but this is the best quarterback they face by far. Maybe you could debate it with Chandler Morris. I can't. Big yards on deep routes, and Duke would be able to take advantage of that. They'll be able to get big yards out of NC State. It's just about can they keep them out of the end zone. I think Harsh, Sloan, Price, who else was there? Cleveland. I think they can get pressure on Mensa. So I think it'll just depend on how he handles it, but he seems like he'll be just fine. Duke wins that kind of matchup. I'll go into Duke's passing defense and NC State's passing offense next. Both teams have abysmal pass coverages. So, Tulane was able to take advantage of that defense. And when I mentioned the bubble routes for first downs, Tulane did that on them. Duke tries it, then they can't defend it, even though that's something they do. It's frustrating sometimes because it's like, okay, well, you see how this play works. it's just like, I don't know if you don't have the guys for it. I don't know. Um, let's see. Where was I? While the flexibility on defense does give them a slight edge, I think NC State, as I mentioned, has the flexibility of their receivers. So it's more about like it's going to be what I thought we were going to get from Virginia, where it's going to be a quarterback duel. It's going to be an arm off, but CJ Bailey has proven more because he's gotten in another arms off and won Chandler Morris, Jamari Taylor. So let's see. Plus, I haven't seen Duke really do anything against tight ends. I think Illinois and Tulane kind of relied on receivers or quarterback legs. So we'll see kind of what creative passing plays can be done, but I don't know. Given that the state. All right, Duke's rushing offense versus NC State's rushing defense. It seems after our last game, I think, Nate Shepard and Jaquez Moore are going to get the ball more. Castles is pretty athletic, though. He's got, as they say, that dog in him. But this O-line's good enough to keep tackles from loss from happening in the way that Wake Forest was able to do on us. Like I'm playing with them. But this part of the game is largely delegated to just short distance, like your 4th and 1, your 3rd and 2. So it's probably not going to be utilized as much as the arm. Because if I am not mistaken, I think that Duke is able, Duke throws it probably like 30, 40, 39 times a game. So there's nothing from this rushing game that kind of gives you a reason to be like, ooh, I'm scared for Nate Shepard. Yeah. Plus, NC State's been able to be good at stopping the run. Just look at what happened with ECU, even though they did have all off season to prepare for that. And Damon Claiborne did get a rushing touchdown, and Jamari Taylor was really good. I doubt we'll get Jamari Taylor performance on us in particular. I think that he's just a good running back, and I don't think that Duke has a strong enough running game to necessarily warrant, I don't want to say not being threatened by it, but sheesh. I mean, they got to do something. I give it to, plus, of course, defensive line, Cleveland, Harsh, Sloan, Fordham, Brown. We got good defensive guys who can stuff runs. So, NC State advantage just because of Duke. And the last thing I'll mention, Duke Russian defense, not last, second to last, Duke Russian defense, NC State Russian offense. NC State has been able to take advantage of those quarterback runs. Tulane showed that Duke has not been able to prepare. As I mentioned before, I think they'll overcorrect. But I think they'll open up creativity and shared responsibility of running the ball between CJ Bailey and Hollywood Smothers. I think Hollywood Smothers would definitely need to do more with his legs in this game. Especially, I think the backups will just out of safety for Smothers. But I believe CJ Bailey's leg could be able to trip up the players on that regards. But Duke's Russian defense does have the little advantage of 7 tackles for loss, 6th and 15 at 3rd and 4th, I think against Tulane. So if Duke can hit line in the bottle, they can stifle this Russian defense just as much as NC State can on Duke. So, well, I'm not expecting it. Kind of like I'm not expecting what I mentioned before. A 40 yards passing defense in the second half. 2 Russian yards defense in the second half. That's something that's not going to happen. But Duke could maybe have like half that level of performance, and it'll be enough to beat NC State. But I give the advantage to State. A little bit more I want to mention special teams wise. Todd Polino has about 63% accuracy, no longer 47. I think it's going to be Finisette for long term, but Koneski could if Finisette does have a bad game. I will say Duke did give up that fumble against I think Illinois. I think it was Illinois or Tulane. They gave up. No. It's definitely Tulane because they got the fumble and then Ratsliff, the Tulane quarterback, fumbled later. Let's see. For Duke, their primary punter is Cade Reynoldson. Even though he hasn't even had to use his legs as much this season. Only 3 punts, averaging 43 yards and no longer 46. Although Noonkester, he's averaging 45, which is third in the SEC. Trying to think who else would be kind of there in that. I'm trying to think who else would be in that territory. It's definitely not Duke's punter. I think he is the best in the league. If you look at, Jack Stonehouse, Syracuse, and Nick Feltzistas out of Virginia Tech. Both have pretty big yards and big net. Michael Kern from Cal has a bigger net than Noonkester. So maybe not one of the best, but he's definitely not replaceable. Kind of going on a ramble. Jaden Scott will probably be our primary punt returner just because I think Hoffman might be needed more in the pass game. And then Peyton Jones, I think their 4th string running back for Duke, is their returner, averaging 19 yards a return. I'll put the advantage to Duke on that one, but oh well. They're going to play probably similar to what they did with Virginia. One on the ground, force Mensa to make mistakes, and set up scoring plays with the arm. Defensively, just keep the pressure and make Mensa make mistakes. I think that's going to be their formula for the rest of the season. If they can silence that Duke arm, they win piece of cake. All right, I apologize. This episode's running a bit long. We still have 2 whole segments to go over. I'll start with the soccer. So, I'll just kind of briefly mention that NC State, they beat FAU 2-0. I think the defense was really good. Kind of keeping FAU from really doing anything. Logan Erb's really good. Let's see. Nikola Markovic and Donovan Phillips got goals, and Markovic got an assist. And getting a big win on a ranked team is going to only continue to build NC State's resume. The only thing they can do now is just keep going. October 10th is number 2 Clemson. So mark your calendars for that. But I thought NC State was really strong in the second half. In the first half, they kind of were easing off the pedal aggressively. But I thought it was great. I thought it was a great season overall for them. But the women's, that's a whole different story. Since the last time we talked about them, they've gone 1-1-1, total to 1-6-2 on the season. Finally got a win. They tied against Elon, where they were a lot more aggressive, scoring on 6 shots on goals, but they can't get in the net. Frances Mary Sims, Jade Bordelot, and Mana Nataka are kind of the big 3 of the offensive front. And Prada Paz, she did have 100% save accuracy in that game. Same thing with the next game, too. Going 4-0 to beat Campbell. Big performances. Mary Frances Sims, she got her 2 goals. Jay Bordelot, she finally got a goal. I thought she was going to be the headline of this offense, but it took her until... Hold on. About 8th game to get a goal. Fane Leddecker also got one. Pratapus 5 saves. It's a good blowout to try to get prepared for Notre Dame, where they were tied at halftime from an early goal from Emily Wong. But Notre Dame's just better. Let's see, Annabelle Chukwu and Izzy Engel got goals. I think Engel got the game winning with kind of the late goal. And they were really in control of the game past the first 10 minutes. Even with a very low shot and goal, they were still able to get things done. Like defense, wish there could be more on offense. That's really all I have to say in the matter. Whew. So first up is SMU, I think on Thursday, then Sunday FSU. SMU has only 1 point in the standings, but they're 6-2-1 overall. Their most notable win, though, is against North Texas. They have a tie at Syracuse for their 1, and some losses at Wake Forest and Texas Tech. So maybe being at NC State would be an advantage for them. SMU, they only have a 0.78 margin, so they score about 1.78 goals a game, and they give up 1 a game. Which, for comparison, NC State has a negative 0.89. But they have a 75% save percentage on shots, and are 11th in the conference with fouls with 79 total. So this SMU team is not great. The biggest stars are Nia Rose with 11 shots on goals, even though she doesn't lead the team in goals. That's actually Lydia Ugnashik with 3. Sammy Knives has 5 assists, which is 5th in the conference. And there's the Spurs, kind of like what was with men's UNC. 10 of their 11 starters / high rotation players scored a goal this season. So that game should be competitive. I don't think the FSC one is going to be, though. Just kind of leaving it a little blunt. FSU to the head honcho. They're 6-0-1 with 4-0 at home. I think this game is going to be an away game. FSU has one of the top offenses in the conference with 3.8 goals per game and only 0.6 goals given up per game, which in 8 games, they've only given up 3 goals, I think. Ooh, I might not know how to do math. Wait. Yeah, something like that. 4 or 5 goals. Not great. For us. Although they do have a decent amount of fouls with 64, and NC State they lead the conference or they're worse in the conference with fouls. Biggest stars on the team. One of the best goalies in the conference is Addie Todd with about 90% save accuracy, which is 3rd in the league, and she's the lowest in the league with goals against average, like the amount of total goals she's given up. So maybe with a bigger sample size, she might be a little worse. No, it sounds like she's better. I don't know, but she's one of the best in the league. Second in the league in total goals is Rihanna Hudson with 7, including 2 game winners. Jordan Dudley has 3 assists on the team, and Heather Gilchrist has about 85.7% shot and goal accuracy. I don't think anyone on our team's that high. It's going to take a massive amount of luck to beat FSU, but SMU might get lucky to be beat by us. FSU, they're one of the strongest teams in the conference, so beating them would just require so much luck. Being able to shut down the offense completely and just bully the goalie with shot and goal attempts. We haven't done either consistently. Hopefully, the best case scenario, FSU tired out by playing UNC on Wednesday, and their heart's not in the game, and they lose. But they did beat Louisville at Louisville, and Louisville is playing real hot, so not great. SMU, they've given up plenty of goals and fouls, and their goalie, Aubrey Brown, is one of the worst when it comes to stats. So as long as NC State can outshoot SMU, they could win, but it would require being an offensive stalwart, which they can't really do. I mean, yeah, there definitely needs to be a big star in the team. Okay, I put this down. I didn't realize this. Jade Wardwell has 3 goals on the season, which leads the team in goals. But no one's really shown themselves as a permanent scorer. And well, I would say with time, their defense has become their strong side. But I need more. Give the younger guys some reps on offense. Try to do what do what the volleyball team's doing. Young scorers. Something needs to change because 1-6-2 is the worst in the conference and one of the worst in the country. They need to figure something out with this. Just get creative with things. Just get the ball in the net and they'll be fine. They just can't get the ball in there. Let's see. Prada Paz, I think she's finally proven, which I'm happy about. But they still have a big suck streak. And I'd be fine with giving, I don't know how to pronounce it, Sina Tozo some more reps before going into ACC play. I'm sure she'll get some even later in the season. No disrespect to Prada Paz, just in general. Daisy Duda, Antonella Masiato, there's some other players I want to see more of. I'm happy with Daisy Duda so far. We just need to settle precedents for future seasons to have something to build off of for next season. Because so far, it's scraps. Best of luck heading into them. I'll check back up on them late in October. We've got some cross country to go over. Whew. All right, cross country. Let's do this. September 9th, 5:55 p.m. Wake Med soccer course. NC State's number 1 in the conference and women's cross country. And the men's is 9th in their regional. Last year, NC State finished number 1 in women's, number 2 in the men's side. Some notable finishers who are returning for the men's: Wesley Larson, Jimmy Malarkey, and Ryan Motondo. Even though they will probably get beat out by Liberty, who beat them out last year, especially since they have 2 top 10 finishers returning with Edwin Kiprop and Tristan Merchant. Some notable women who did well is Grace Hartman, Hannah Gates, Kate Putman, Angelina Napoleon, Carolina Morel, Ellie Shea, Olivia Haas. They're going to, whoop some butt coming up. Even though Clemson does have a good women's squad with Judy Soke, Sylvia Jalego, and Gladys Shonagich. If you saw these names, you'd be like, what on earth? No disrespect, but jeez Louise. They finished 1, 2, and 3 last year with Clemson. But usually this Adidas cross country and carry, it kind of hosts a lot of the teams that are local. So like your NC State, UNC, Virginia, Wake Forest, Duke, UNCG, Elon, NC Central, High Point, Liberty. You get it. So, I don't know if you can go to those games. I don't know if it means anything to talk about cross country, but I just kind of want to highlight that that's going to start taking off, and eventually they'll be part of my conference and national championship coverage. But either way, I think we can wrap it up there. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you have a good day. Next week we'll be starting our winter sports previews with swimming and diving. We have the Duke UNC doubleheader. Right now I have VTech women's soccer. Probably keep that because we're also going VTech football just to kind of keep on theme. But, oh well, it's the bee's knees. Have a good day and go Pack.